TikTok, it's time to rock. Welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. It's always a pleasure to be here. We've got, if you aren't aware of who this person is, he's a superstar in our community, isn't he, Simon, the Rock Professor? And we're not talking about the Rock Professor.
Yeah, no one's talking about the Rock Professor, are they?
No. Yeah. Well, actually, the Rock Professor is a superstar, but the guest superstar we have is Hugh. Good to see you, brother.
Good morning, Hugh.
Simon.
Welcome.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Good to see you. Good to see you, bro. Good.
Yes, I'm fresh from I went quizzing last night. Fresh from my triumph as the winner of the quiz.
Fantastic.
I was actually won.
Wow.
If I show you what I won, you'll be astonished.
A chocolate fish?
No. I'll go and get it. Hold on.
He's going to go.
I'm going to go over here to get it. But,
he's going to go and get it.
You'll be amazed and astonished by what you can win in a quiz in the UK. Let me tell you. Win this. Look, this is what I won. We're winning the mighty quiz. Look how big that is. Look at that. That's all of that. Give you an idea about how big that bottle is.
Is that a hot sauce?
No, it's wine. A small bottle of wine. Look, about like one glass. They are like Cray. I don't do this stuff for the money. I can tell you. Yes, you. This is what you could win. Not a boat or a. Remember the old days on the old quiz shows? You could win a boat or a caravan or something. Yeah. Well, you go to a local village quiz like the one I did, and that's what you win, kids. That's a huge bottle of wine, or a very small bottle of wine.
Good to see the Rock Professor's back, ladies and gentlemen. If you're not aware, he was in Switzerland last weekend doing his regular.
Yes, I heard that.
Doing his triangular visit.
I'll have you know, Mr. Wilson, that I went to stay with a friend of mine who I went to university with. We had a little university reunion, and I'll have you know that one of them is a director of housing in southeast London. One of the other ones is a professor at Cambridge University. And on the Monday, he was off to a common select committee to talk about the British Antarctic Survey.
Fantastic.
I wasn't just swanning about with the hoi polloi.
And on a Sunday, he's roughing it with Hugh and Andrew.
Yes. I come home to find that apparently the 5150 show is with Brad and Andrew and nobody else.
This is what he's talking about, folks, if you're not aware of.
That's what happens when I turn my back for 5 seconds. They're off.
Hey, this is Philip Sace, and you are watching the 5150 Show with Brad and Andrew. All right.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Philip.
Hold on, dear Mr. Sace, I would like to point out that I have been on the 5150 Show for longer than Brad has, and for you to miss out my name is practically unforgivable.
Speaking about Brad, folks, we've got Alan's in the chat. So Brad can't join us because he's got some personal business that he's doing, and we wish him well. If he gets it all settled and sorted out and everything, he should be back with us next weekend, Rock Professor. Otherwise, we might have to get Hugh on again for another fill-in show.
Yes, we got next weekend, Easter weekend. We're going to choose a special Easter album.
Is it your pick or is it Brad's pick? Do you know? Can you remember?
I think. Oh God. What? Well, I mean, let's make it mine. It's fine. I don't know because Brad you were going to do Holy Diver, weren't you, with Zach?
I'll make it your pick.
Hard at work, so we'll make it mine. It's fine.
Yeah, cool. That'll be
do
fantastic.
Should we do Easter by Patti Smith?
Interesting album. Good to see you, Hugh. If folks aren't aware, Hugh's been on our channel a few times now. This might be your third time, Hugh.
Correct.
Third time, so we look forward to having Hugh. There's Hugh's channel there, folks. If you're watching on a replay, I'll attach Hugh's channel. It's there in the comments. We would love you, please, to subscribe to Hugh. And let him know, obviously, that the 5150 show sent you over there. That would be great.
It is just called Hugh Caldwell, isn't it? Hugh.
Yes.
That's the one.
Yeah.
That's right. And he does loads of stuff, loads of collaborations with people and stuff. Amazing videos and things. So check them out. They're really cool.
Yeah, if you Google Hugh Caldwell and look at videos, it'll you'll find him. Otherwise, there's the link there. HDonkey1. So
the picture
check him out there.
Sylvester the cat.
Tweety Bear.
Especially check out a song called "It's All Blues to Me." It's an original one.
Oh yeah.
Okay, when you guys are talking, I'll find that link, Hugh.
Where I pay homage to a kind of history of the blues, a little.
Nice.
Okay, I'll find that. While we're talking, and I'll put that link. But Hugh, if you could subscribe to Hugh, please, that would be great if you could do that, because we're all about a collaboration here. We have 3 people watching. That's fine. We know that we have a few people that watch our shows after we go live, Rock Professor. So we want to do a special shout out to you if you are watching on replay. If you can do us a favor and subscribe to us here as well. You can find Brad and the Rock Professor on Instagram. There's Brad Cook Music, and you'll find his YouTube channel there. And also Simon Williams, the Rock Professor, 33, easy peasy Japanesey. Give him a sub, and you can find me somewhere amongst their posts if you want to subscribe to me. I think that's about it.
Very good. Very good. And we've got good news. Nobody's died this week, so we've got no news to impart.
No, we got
good.
No bad news, but we got lots of good news. So we got a great album to talk about. So, what do you reckon, guys? Should we kick it off, Rock Professor?
I think we should kick it off. Definitely.
Okay. Right, Hugh. You've picked the album, brother. We know what it is. Do you want to do a bit of an intro and tell us a little bit about the album, how you discovered this guy, and then Simon and I will offer, I'm sure, our 5 cents worth.
Okay. Well, the album is "Don't Be Afraid of the Dark" by the Robert Cray Band. It was released on Mercury Records in 1988, August 8th. It's a follow-up to Strong Persuader, which was his big breakthrough album, and it reached number 32 on the Billboard charts.
Wow.
Okay. And it stayed there for 60 weeks. It was written and produced by Bruce Bromberg and Dennis Walker. The band consisted of, obviously, Robert Cray on vocals, guitar, Richard Cousins on bass, Dave Olsen on drums, Peter Bow on keyboards and synth, the Memphis Horns on horns, David Sanborn on alto saxophone. What else? How I found this album, I was already a fan of Robert Cray from Strong Persuader and some of his even earlier stuff.
Yeah.
But I remember one day I walked in. There used to be a library in Glasgow that you could rent vinyl LPs from, and you could get up to like 5 at a time. So this one afternoon, I think I walked out with that album along with I forget what it's called. It's Eric Clapton, the white 4-sider LP.
Yep.
And a couple other ones. And I remember that day, actually, believe it or not, I was listening to more of the Robert Cray album than I was of the Clapton one, just because I knew most of the Clapton stuff anyway.
Yeah.
But the songs from Robert Cray, I think he's probably got the best blues voice in the business. He brings a soulfulness to blues that very few can. And the instant thing I got from this album was how you can be a real killer guitar player without having to be flashy and stuff like that. So basically, I think it's a fantastic album that probably gets underrated because it came after Strong Persuader, but I believe it to be every bit as good, even though it's probably and more polished. Even I would say more 80s sounding. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Brilliant. Thank you, Hugh. You did a wonderful intro on that, and obviously we're going to talk more, aren't we, Simon, about Robert Cray? But Simon, do you want to give us some background on your experiences with Robert Cray and or this album, please?
Yeah, well, it's lasted about a week, to be honest. I don't think I've ever listened to this before now. I have Strong Persuader, I think, as a record, but I like that. But no, I was sort of off on in 1988. I was clearly off on. I started work, so I'd finished university and started work. Karen and I bought a house, so we were kind of. So, and I think I was off on 1988. My memory of it, that was kind of green era REM. So I think I was a bit more of on an indie kick of green, and I was very lucky enough to go and see have backstage passes for REM at the NEC in Birmingham, because my friends the Blue Aeroplanes were playing with them, so that was really cool. But I think the Blue Aeroplanes had an album out as well, Friend Lover Plane. But yeah, I think I was a much more of a kind of indie kick kind of thing. I know that the 80s for me were quite a difficult time musically, and I had to sort of hunt. I think in the 80s it started to diversify and stuff, and you started to be able to not really keep up with different genres because it started to think. But I know I was a bit earlier than this, but I was very much into that Paisley Underground stuff, like the Dream Syndicate and Green or Red and those sorts of things from the mid. That's more like the mid 80s, but very much on a bit more of a sort of indie kick, really trying to find my guitar things in that area rather than kind of mainstream. And I know we've done the Clapton albums from this era. They aren't my favourite sound wise, particularly from this side. I think the 80s sound sometimes kind of dates a bit, but especially not so much on this. But I think the keyboards we can talk about on this. it's well, I think points of interest, aren't they? So yes, so basically I haven't listened to this until this week. So but it's been fine. I've been riding around in the car listening to it and stuff. Been great. Andrew, what about you? Have you had long?
Yeah, I'm familiar with this album, Simon and Hugh. The first single, the opening track, was a huge hit here in New Zealand on the radio. And obviously, as Hugh said in his intro, guys, it's riding on the mass appeal of Strong Persuader, which was just phenomenal. That Simon pulled in a lot of people. So, I was listening to Clapton and Stevie Ray Vaughan amongst, as you said, a kaleidoscope of artists from the 80s, So this slotted straight in. And the fact that it was on the radio too, Simon. So back then, if you were listening to cool stuff on the radio that had a guitar and identifiably sounding pretty cool, Well, that was fantastic. So I hadn't listened, though, to be honest, Hugh, to this album for a long, long, long time. So definitely surprised to listen to the consistency and the wonderful production on this album. Don't want to give too much away here now, but yeah, I've got to agree with a little bit where the Rock Professor is going. Definitely not identifiably an 80s album. Sounds pretty good. It's up there with his 2012 albums. It's definitely a Robert Cray stamped album, and I think that's one of the great things about his stuff. But brought back memories, Hugh. Brought back a lot of memories here in this album. So I look forward to talking to you and the Rock Professor about it.
Yeah, I mean, around about that time as well, you had, as you say, Stevie Ray Vaughan had just come back in '87 after having a year out with his troubles, and he come back playing better than ever. And you had a few other guys around at that same time who pretty much were keeping the blues alive. And I think, I don't know, I used to listen to this album pretty much all the way through the 90s, I would say, as well. I hadn't actually heard that. Last time was probably about 10 years ago, but it was always one of the ones back in the day that was always on for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And look, I'm glad that you've picked it, Simon, because we love that Strat sound, don't we? We love it.
Yeah. It's I think in terms of that, it's a very kind of smooth, isn't it? It's a beautifully recorded,
It's so
beautifully
sparkly.
produced record. It's sparkly, it's kind of, but it's very smooth, isn't it? And very kind of, as you say, Hugh, it's not sort of wild, crazy edge to it or anything like that. It's very,
No.
and I think that's where clearly where people had got to in the 80s, hadn't they? Production was king. People had found, sort of being able to, record to click tracks and things, and so that very much there was kind of like that organizing. And also, I'm reminded when I was listening to it, I thought to myself, this is very much an album from the CD age, isn't it?
Yeah.
That pristine sound, the instrument separation, very, very clear. So, as I said, it's beautifully recorded, beautifully produced, and beautifully mastered, so that it sounds very clear. I went and listened to a couple of other bits. I've listened to the album I've got, and they've not quite the same, interestingly, in that terms of that pristine thing. So it did strike me. In that sense, it is a very 80s album because of that pristine production and that instrument separation. And also, I felt not a lot of bass on it either. It's not a very, even on
Yeah.
my stereo, it didn't, the kick drum wasn't kind of kicking me in it, which I kind of, that kind of
That
very
is a
pristine, not very bass, it seems to be very
I
80s
think
thing.
that is a
wrong?
disappointment.
I think there is quite one of the reasons with the bass is I think there's quite a lot of effect on the bass. There's somewhat a kind of almost fuzzy chorus. I'm hearing at times it makes it sound brighter and less
But
basic.
that's right. It's bright and it's in there, but there's that low end is not. I didn't
It's
think
not
was
pumping.
particularly
Yeah.
present. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I wondered if it was. I wonder if it was different. Hugh, were you listening to it on? Clearly, I was only listening to it on Spotify, but I was putting it through my stereo. I've got big speakers that kind of add in some of the bass back. So I wondered if it was a different experience if you listened to it on vinyl, let's say, or or proper CD.
Well, I was listening to it on vinyl,
Right.
which stupidly I didn't bring down for much. I showed you. But
No worries.
it kind of stands out on vinyl to me because it is so clear. Everything is
Right.
so
Okay.
clear,
Yeah.
and as you say, defined. It's certainly
Yeah.
not Jesus and Mary chain. You know what I mean?
No. And Darklands
Yeah,
is a masterpiece of an album. I can't wait for us to talk about that album.
Yeah.
Hugh, I saw them at the infamous North London Polytechnic gig because that's where I went to university. Not that I was there when it. infamous, possibly. Anyway,
Mm.
but I think that's something to look out for as we go through the album. So, but I did think that in that sense, that it still sounds beautifully done and pristine and everything. But to me, I associate that not very, because Andrew, you've talked quite a lot about Van Halen albums without any bass on them and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
which were in the 80s, and I kind of in my head I've got that kind of locked in that the bass kind of was a bit knocked off with these era albums in a way.
Yeah, and that is a disappointment. But we can talk about that obviously when we get to the tracks.
Yeah.
But clearly a point that the Rock Professor has brought up in the intro. And again, if you're watching on a replay and you disagree with anything that we say, please let us know. And if you agree with anything that we say, please let us know. We enjoy talking about music here on this channel. We found out before we went live, Hugh, that Robert Cray is categorized at number 31, did you say?
Yes.
Number 31 on the total guitar.
Oh yes, the thing you were talking about yesterday. Yeah.
Which I think, Simon, is pretty interesting. I would have ranked him higher.
It was quite an interesting list, that, wasn't it? In terms of like having particularly Joe Bonamassa at number 5. Was it 5? Yeah.
No, 3.
3. Sorry, 3. Well, I think
before Jimmy and before Eric.
Well, yes, I'm not
Joe
sure that I
wouldn't be
could
in
be
my
putting
top.
him before Hendrix.
Joe wouldn't be in my top 10.
No. I love Joe, but I wouldn't have him in my top 10 either.
But in terms of his modern day influence, what he does now, he's probably the best known blues player around right now, isn't he?
Oh, correct.
He does
the
keeping the blues alive stuff and all of that stuff. And
I would argue Derek Trucks would equally be as
that's
well.
Good. Yeah.
So anyway, we hold on. We're not going. See, that's the reason why I did that show solo, so we wouldn't end up fighting. But no.
I missed that show yesterday, Andrew. I meant to watch it last night, so I don't really know the list, which is annoying because I'd like to know.
What I'll do is I will flick you through some of the graphics that I've got, and you can have a look at it. Do me a favor when you get a chance. Don't watch the whole show, but please go and comment. Put your top 10 in the comments, please. That would be great. And Simon, when you get a chance too, if you can put your top 10 blues guitar players. No one's going to hold you accountable because we all know that these lists change. But if you guys get a chance.
My list hasn't changed over the last 30 years, so it'll be very easy for me to do mine.
Fantastic. Mine hasn't too, to be fair. Should we kick off the first track, Hugh?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, track 1 is the title song of the album, Don't Be Afraid of the Dark. It was released as a single around the world, was pretty successful in most places, and I consider it to be one of Robert's best songs in his canon.
Yep.
Live, it's always amazing. His voice, straight away, as soon as the album starts, you're thinking, this guy can sing anything, You get the introduction of the Memphis Horns, who, again, just give that beautiful Memphis soul rhythm to anything they do. There's nothing like it, It's brilliant. The song is, I think, one of Robert's best guitar solos on it. It's biting. I've always said that I don't think there's anybody that plays guitar can put as much emotion into a clean sound as Robert, because it's so easy to if you play with a lot of gain on your guitar, for instance, you can mask like bad technique and stuff. If you're playing clean, you're exposed, you're naked, you have to play properly. And this guy can sort of bend to pitch every single time. And not just that, he's doing like chord sequences that are way harder than they looked. What he's doing, he's rhythm playing similar to Hendrix a bit, rhythm and lead at the same time.
Yep.
So you instantly get that from track one on this. It's a signature song of his. Can't say a bad word about it. It's definitely a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, it's a proper opener, isn't it? Sets the tone for the album sound wise. It has, as you say, the Memphis horns on it, and I think they give that, that punctuation. They fill out the sound. They use as a coloration thing. I think they used really well on this album as a point of interest color. What they play, evokes that kind of soul sound, doesn't it? That kind of a classic horn section from, and I think in that sense he kind of harks back to that earlier blues era, doesn't he? It's kind of, he straddles that, the post Stevie Ray Vaughan era, where the new boys took over, but he's still kind of got at least one foot in the earlier camp of using that. And as you say, he's got a great soul voice, hasn't he? I mean, I classify it as a kind of soul voice more. He's not a blues shouter. He's a he's not like a Bobby Wu Bland. He's a smooth soul singer, and I think he sings brilliantly on this record. I think that's one of the really high points. I agree. He's got that classic kind of clean Strat sound. Interestingly, it hasn't got a huge amount of effects on it, has it? I couldn't hear loads of. He didn't have. I was half expecting loads of chorus on it or something, stuff like that, because that's the 80s. No. But no, it seems to be pretty straight, bit of reverb, but pretty straight. And as you say, the other thing that struck me was his vibrato. You can hear very clearly. Yeah. Very interesting, but as you say, classic Strat sound on the solo. And he's a great player and he can pull it off. It's the thing I'd say about it is clearly this is a crafted album. It's built and I don't know, over a period. Seemed to be over a period of it wasn't kind of go in the studio, play live and things. So clearly they're using the studio as a tool. They're building the tracks up, and and I think that giving that aspect, as I said earlier, that great crisp sound, great clarity, all the separation of the instruments and stuff. And you could, and it's got everything on here that you're going to get on the album, really. So 10 out of 10 for me, never a skip. As you say, he classic opening and, does what he's supposed to do. Yes, 10 out. Andrew.
I just want to do a shout out to our brother John ZD351 in the chat. He's going to be busy doing a few things, but we always appreciate him dropping by, and everybody else that comments in the chat. Obviously, we'll do a shout out at the end of the show to you guys, but hang around. Look, I have to agree with you, Simon, and thanks for saying that this guy's the bridge, because the note here that I've got, my first note, is that his Strat tone is so different from EC and Stevie Ray Vaughan's Strat tone, which and they were predominant around this time as Strat players. A lot of people would know that weren't hardcore music fans like us back in the day would have been just aware of that as well. So his Strat tone, uniquely different. He had that signature, didn't he? And I like the fact, too, that you guys have linked back to, he's gone back to the tradition of the blues, and that's clear. That single tone, single Strat tone, single coil tone is, really, really important. And some guys make it sing and do wonderful things with it. This guy's doing that. You guys have mentioned the horns. Love it. The production with the horns, it's not glaring in your ears if you're listening to it with the headphones on, Simon and Brad. It's just a good mix, because sometimes you and I have spoken about horns. Sometimes horns are too loud, or they're not loud enough. But to my ear, and I'll be keen to hear what you guys have to say, because there's a lot of horns on other tracks, but I'm amazed actually with the way that it's produced on this opening track. Like I said to you guys too in the intro, radio friendly, huge song here in New Zealand on the radio. It was a huge song, it was played everywhere, and rightly so, because it's got that friendly vibe. It's got that radio friendly vibe, Hugh, which is really, really important for musicians. That's all I'm going to say. I too have given this a 10 out of 10. It's never a skip, and a great opener to a great album. Hugh.
Excellent. Okay, then on with track 2. It's called "Don't You Even Care." This is completely different to the first track, as in it starts off with this almost kind of edgy film noir beat to it, kind of diminished chord almost after the opening walking line of the bass. That's what it sounds to me like anyway. And it's kind of, I don't know what you would class this kind of blues song as. Slightly jazzy. It's hard to describe. I've always liked it. I think it sounds great. It's the polished 80s sound is here again. A lot of people might be put off again by the kind of synthy 80s sound of keys here and there. I don't mind it. But yeah, it's you can actually hear the bass in this one, Simon, a little. But yeah, I think everything. It's a really nice second song. Never a skip for me. It's an 8.5 out of 10.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's got that slow bluesing, but pretty angular chords, isn't it? Kind of jazzy chords that give it, given the subject matter of the song, it kind of gives you a slightly uncomfortable feel about it. So I think in those terms, it really complements what the subject matter of the song is in a good way. I agree with it. Isn't it? Is it a bass synth? I mean, it does sound very.
I think so.
I almost thought it was a bass synth on this rather than actually a bass guitar. Although it could be a very treated. You said earlier there's a lot of effects on the bass, so it could be a treated bass. So it did strike me that almost it was the keyboard bass rather than an actual bass on it, which clearly marks it out as a very 80s thing, because that sound is a very 80s sound stuff. And also, I was amused to see that at one point he talks about taking you took my credit cards, which is clearly it's not getting on a train, is it? They're very 80s kind of lyric rather than a modern day lyric rather than your trad blues thing. Stuff. But again, as you say, that it's very clean sound, and the solo has got that crisp, biting tone to it. That single coil strat tone. Yeah, I gave it an 8 out of 10 as well, but not a skip. And I think it's quite a difference from the first track, isn't it? Which is
totally
takes off in a different direction. So interesting. Andrew.
Awesome, thanks guys. Alan gave the first track a 10 out of 10. Guys, we're going to be on the same kind of money here, because I think the vocals on this track are wonderful by Robert Cray. And again, as Hugh said in his intro, he's a wonderful singer. He's a beautiful singer. Certainly not a Chicago blues singer, Simon. He's an accomplished singer. And gets better and better as the album continues on. I think I've made a note here about the bass too. I don't think it's a synth playing the bass. I reckon it's the bass going through those effects that they used to have back then.
Right, yeah.
I reckon. I reckon that's what they've done, and just to give it maybe a little bit of that 80s edge. It's not harsh. It's not harsh on the ears, Hugh. I like it, and I agree with your comment too about the keys. I wouldn't classify this track as wow an 80s defined keyboards track, Simon. There's been plenty of albums that we've done in the 80s and some of those early 90s track. Remember that Page and Plant album that we did? And that, wow, some of the keyboards, it's like, whoa, holy cow. yeah. Yeah, and some of the stuff that Clapton did, like Behind the Sun and August, clearly, Hugh, in the 80s. But I wouldn't classify the keys as that. Love the double stop. So we've got a different technique going on here with Robert on his guitar solo. The first one, he's sort of playing single notes and maybe just a couple of patterns. Hugh, on this track here, he's doing a lot of double stops. So he's, just stretching out a little bit, warming up, Simon. He's warming up.
Warming up.
And I too have given this an 8 out of 10, Simon. Never a skip. And we've got Greg Zeppelin in the chat. Good to see you, brother.
Morning, Gretch.
Morning, Gretch.
Hope you're good. Good to see you. Cool. Right.
Okay,
Hugh,
then.
track 3.
Yes, track 3. This one's called Your Secret's Safe With Me. It's a very...
How many times have you said that to the girls?
Yeah. So in this song, he's describing himself as someone he has feelings for a woman who lives nearby, I think, and he finds her cheating on her lover, and he's kind of deciding how to go forward with his next moves and stuff like that. It's a cool blues track. A little underwhelming, really, but it's one of the ones that I might have skipped, actually, back in the day, but not often. It's just, I find it hard to describe it. It's just one of these songs. It's a good song, but I don't know. It's just...
not quite hitting the mark.
No, I never quite... it was just one of the ones that just didn't quite...
Yeah.
I liked the lyrics more than I liked the actual music, and obviously his singing and stuff. So it's probably a 7 out of 10 for me, this one.
Interesting. Look at that. Trying to build up. I feel like he's trying to build up controversy. 7. Oh dear. Well, it's I can tell you that it's a pretty straightforward. It's a straight 4/4 beat to it. It's got the keys again on it, and the horns, used very much as coloration and dynamics and punctuation. I think that very, very clearly that's what they're being used for on this. We didn't have them on the previous track. We had them on the first track, and they're back for this track. Great soulful singing. I think that we say it before. We're going to say it to his album. As I say, to me, he's a soul singer more than a blues singer, really. In that kind of not like Buddy Guy or someone like that, giving it full throated yelling. Not his style at all. Yeah, that spacious, crisp sound as well is still there. And as I said before, clearly using the studio as a tool, building the tracks up. I feel that very strong. I don't get the impression, Hugh, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't get the impression that it's people playing together in a room. They may have been, but it didn't seem to be that at all. It seemed to be
very much
building the tracks up, and the information I got from taking quite a long time to record it was that how these things work. And it's interesting. It gives you clearly that ability to make everything kind of pristine and perfect. I myself kind of feel like that playing in the room is a big part of recording a band. I think it's one of the things why I'm not so keen on a lot of 80s music, because it moves into that area of building it up and using the studio as a tool, and people didn't get set up in a room, whereas Zeppelin, or my favourites, always set up in a room together. Count it off, 1, 2, 3, 4, feel all the rhythm track, everything. The band plays together, and then Page would do these overdubs and things, and that's kind of where my ear is at its most comfortable. I think when it's got a bit of that human swing and that things speed up and slow down a bit, and I kind of have a thing where I think that people my age, maybe a bit younger than me, you could divide like that. They like that kind of human speeding up and slowing down thing, and they feel it. Whereas, for instance, my wife, who's 5 years younger than me, she's very much a pop kid from pop girl from the 80s. She doesn't like that very much. For her, it's like somehow it's all kind of wobbling about and not kind of. So she likes that kind of 80s. When they're on the grid and kind of doing it like that. I think that it's that there are there are those two things. So I myself would prefer maybe a little more, gives you a little more swing. I think a little more that interaction between the musicians.
It's funny you say that. I think, Simon, sorry, I think there's one track on this album that does exactly that to my ears, but I'll leave that for now.
Yeah, leave that for now. I know which one you're talking about, but so 8 out of 10 from me, but not a skip. I think it's worthy of its place, and as I say, especially with the horns and that vibrato in the solo as well. You can definitely hear him giving it tremendous tremendous wobble in the solo. I was quite struck by it when I listened to it. So yes, Andrew.
I think I know why Hugh has ranked this track at a number 7, and I'm going to tell you why I think so. It's a song that's desperately trying to swing. There's some desperation in this track where it's trying to swing and it can't. It can't because it's too polished, and it's caught in that juxtaposition of trying to be behind the beat, Simon, but it can't because it's not, as the rock professor said, it's not recorded, I'm sure, in a studio together. And I think this is one of the reasons, this is one of the weakest tracks on the album for me because of that, because it wants to be a swing track but just can't do it. And we all know where that comes from. The swing behind the beat comes from your rhythm section, and if there's any inadequacies on the track, it's certainly made up for by the incredible vocals of Robert on this track and the horns. But I too have ranked this a 7 out of 10 as well. It's one of the weakest tracks on the album because it's trying to be something it just can't quite be.
Interesting, yeah.
Okay then.
Yes, I think that for me, blues really benefits from having a swing to it, having being able to kind of move it a bit. And, but as I say, we're in the CD age, aren't we? We're in the age of that that age of pristine recording, and people want to get it perfect and all those things. And I completely understand why that you go with the technologies that's there, don't you?
Exactly right, Simon. There's something about the human ear when you're listening to a group of musicians playing in the same room, because you've got that. It's nothing would be 100% on time with each other. This micros clubs out, milliseconds rather, and that your human ear likes that. There's something pleasing to the ear. There's something that's just it's like too polished right in your ear at the same time. So you're not hearing different things. It's hard to describe, but I think the human ear does prefer that all in the room at the same time.
Yeah. Well, as I say, I think that we do, yes. Because I say my wife doesn't, not nearly so much. She much prefers that kind of much more. She would like this because it's kind of It's kind of very smooth, pristine and crisp. It's all on the grid and kind of, she likes that and doesn't the earlier stuff she doesn't like so much because she feels it like swings about too much.
Do you think
Whereas
it
that's what
could
I
be
want.
because we're musicians?
No, I think it's an age thing. I think if you're
Right.
brought up when people played in the room, that's what you get used to. That's what you feel. If you're brought up with it much more, my kids are the same. They're much more listen. Everything they listen to is on the grid. Everything they listen to is,
Right.
pretty much, that's what they prefer. And I think it's what you've been brought up with. And then when you hear the other side of it, whichever way you're coming at it, I think it's slightly, as I say, for me, it's like it just doesn't swing enough. And I'm with Andrew. There's a really good description by Andrew about
Yeah.
that's why it doesn't swing enough, because it doesn't. There's not people playing in a room together and slowing down
Yeah.
and speeding up and all that stuff. And
I think Andrew just put the words into my mouth that I couldn't come up with, basically.
It's a team thing. You're not. You
Thank
don't have
you.
to come up with absolutely everything. That's the idea. Leave gaps.
Trust me, I can't.
Yeah.
Okay then, on we go.
Track 4.
Track 4 is the song called "I Can't Go Home." Absolutely love this song. I think it's a monster, huge, big sounding blues song. The two chords that open up the track and continue through it are like the best two chords ever for a blues song. It just hits you. It's something really painful and gut wrenching about those two chords. His voice all the way through the song matches it. It's got probably my favourite Robert Cray solo on it, and when he plays it live, I've seen Robert play about 16 times live over the years, and when he plays it live, the solo from that you can feel it in your chest. He really digs in and gives it the full welly. I think this is absolutely wonderful, wonderful, wonderful blues song. It's just everything about it is class. It's like 8 million out of 10 for me, this one.
Yeah.
8 million out of 10. A Hugh score.
8 million. Hugh score. This is a new category. Hugh score. Excellent. So, yeah, it's a slow ballad, isn't it? It's a kind of the first slow ballad of the album, slowing things down. I think interestingly, it has organ on it rather than keyboards. And I think that kind of the sound of that is cool. Organ, bass drums, and that clean guitar. It struck me as very much kind of in the same vein as Mark Knopfler. This track particularly, there's see overlap with the in sound wise, in moving to that sort of territory. As you say, Hugh, there's a pretty cool chord sequence. It's not just 1-4-5, is it? It's just taking it to new places, and fantastic clean solo, with but a lot of passion in it, a lot of grit and stuff.
Yeah.
So, and fantastic singing as well. So, 10 out of 10 for me. Never a skip. Great track. I think gets it. Interestingly, I think put the previous track not the weaker track at track 3, but then put 2 strong tracks either side of it. Kind of helps lift, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Andrew.
Yeah. Remind me, guys, at track 5 and halfway through too for the picks, please, guys. Thank you. Don't let us forget. Alan's given it 10 out of 10. Look, we're all on the same money here. I've got that excellent rhythm guitar going on this track, Hugh. Nice strat tone again, and at 2 minutes and 6, you've got wow, that solo. I have to agree with you. I've got wow, that solo, Hugh. The vibrato and the double stop technique that he has when he plays. And I have to come back to the point that you made in your introduction, and it's a point that we need to bear out for people that when you're playing a Les Paul cranked through a Marshall and a Governor, it's a different technique, and we love that tone and that sound, don't we, Simon? And you can you can get a little bit sloppy and still sound really, really good. But if you're playing clean, if you're playing through a Fender Super Reverb, and we got a pic of what he was playing through, two of them turned up. Simon, you've got to hit those notes properly. You've got a PV. I've got a Fender there. Hugh's got a yeah. You can't hit bum notes when you're playing.
No,
playing
absolutely
that
not.
and one of these. So I too have given, because of the technique, and this is a wonderful example of his technique as a guitar player, and I just want to point that out. I think sometimes maybe he might get forgotten, but he's a wonderful technician. I've given this a 10 out of 10. Not 8 million out of 10, not a Brad score, but 10 out of 10, Hugh.
That's a great score in anybody's book. It really is.
One of the standout tracks for sure.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, and as I say, when he plays live, this is one of the highlights of the night.
Wow.
Always for me. Always.
Wow.
Okay. So take a wee break after this one, yeah?
Yeah.
Track 5, okay? Track 5 is Night Patrol. I love this song as well. Some may say it's pretty poppy sounding, which it is, but it's got the Robert Cray treatment all the way through it. It's got a great storyline in the lyrics, kind of the juxtaposition between a couple of sad stories of people on the street and how he was going through in his own life and his own mind and stuff like that. It's got a great drive and rhythm, bass, drums and keys. What else can I say about this one? It's one of the ones when I used to listen to that just because it picked up the pace as well on the album, straight after your slow blues. I always just remember it as being a highlight of the album just for that very reason, just because it was really groovy. The bass picks up. It's very 80s sounding, as in the kind of poppiness of it as a blues song. But as I say, it's still got that Robert Cray band sound that I love and cherish. So never a skip again. 9.5 out of 10 for me.
Wow.
Yeah. Interesting, isn't it? I think, Hugh, that I'm reminded on this track particularly, I was reminding us of parallels with Clapton at this stage, doing kind of more, it's not just straightforward blues, there's definitely a kind of 80s kind of pop kind of thing, in the mix of this. And I think you're right. This has that kind of thing. I think the interesting part of me is it's a kind of, it's quite a gritty subject matter, isn't it? Kind of social injustice and building into that lyrically. It's a bit of a hard hitting end of side one if we look at it like that. Yeah.
Now's your chance, folks, to say anything you want about John ZD351 because he can't type, he's driving. So this is the chance to get it all off your chest, folks.
If he can't type because he's driving, how's he typed can't type driving?
Because he's probably stopped listening to music and he's probably put that on the voice. He's voiced that, Simon.
Voice activated. All right.
Yeah.
Blimey. See? Technology. Can you do that? Anyway, so Night Patrol is a song in E minor. Again, we're back to the keys thing, which I think gives it that very kind of 80s feel. It's not organ, it's a keyboard sound. But it's got a great melody and he sings it really well. Solo, I think, is double tracked, Hugh. More than one guitar on a solo. I kind of seem to have two guitar parts. Yeah, no. Well, the first time I don't think he's double tracked any of the other ones particularly, but this seemed to have very kind of two guitars playing a solo, slightly different stuff, together, and then the second bit, the second solo, and then you get the two guitars. They kind of respond to each. No, that's right. It's they kind of respond to each other before one guitar kind of takes over as a kind of. So giving it to an interesting because he hasn't done that before on this album. So it's So I think that's pretty cool. I give it 8.5 out of 10, but never a skip. good finishing track. Andrew.
Yeah, you guys are on the money, and I'm going to tell you that I'm on the money too. Again, I think if there is a track that is going to be singled out as an 80s track, this is definitely it. The synth is the star here on the track, and I can hear a phaser going on here. Now I don't know whether the phaser Hugh and Simon is coming through the guitar or it's a phaser coming through the keyboards. I don't know, but I'm darn sure there's a phaser going on here. And again, you guys have nailed it. You know, Clapton was playing with a phaser a little bit in the chorus, you know, around this time too. So, and we all know that there is a difference between a phaser and a chorus, but it's subtle,
Yeah.
It's not in your ear, but I'm darn sure it's there somewhere. The synth is the star, as I say. It's a cool little track, Hugh. You've nailed it again by saying, you know, this is a radio version. This is a song that I'm sure that they've constructed and composed for the radio. Not a bad thing. It's never a bad thing when you're writing an album and you're doing, 10 tracks for an album, Simon, having a couple of identifiable radio tracks. I don't know where this went on the radio, Hugh. I don't think it was released as a single. But I, too, have given this a 7 out. Well, Rock Professor, you gave it an 8. Didn't you?
I did. I gave it an 8.
Yeah, I'm giving this a 7 out of 10, but it's not a bad track.
No. I think the other thing it's like it reminded me of Night Shift by the Commodores.
Yeah.
Why is it kind of Night Patrol, Night Shift? I don't know, but in word association, but kind of reminded me a bit of that. Yeah.
I forgot to mention that I don't actually quite like Richard Cousins' bass line in this. It's not too showy, and again, I think that it might even have some phaser on it as well. There's a sound to it.
I think you're right, Hugh. And what's really interesting about the bass player that Hugh's talking about, if you go and watch some of their live tracks, man, the guy rips it on the bass. Yeah. You know, and certainly the last 3 or 4 albums, half a dozen albums that Robert's done, you know, there's some wonderful bass work, but live he rips it.
Yeah, but as Andrew pointed out, Simon pointed out earlier,
80s album.
He gets a bit buried in this album a lot, so.
Yeah. So we got some picks.
Yeah, picks.
All right. Okay, so the picks this week, ladies and gentlemen, because he's not here, so we got to put the clickbait in.
Guns.
So, Brad the Backdoor Man is the sponsor of the picks for the show this week. If you're watching this, bro, if you're hanging out and if you've got to the 58-minute, fantastic news. We look forward to catching up with with Brad the Backdoor Man next week. That's the album cover. Now, the guy with the leather jacket standing to the left of Robert, that's the bass player.
Yeah, that's Richard.
Yeah. That's the topic of the hot topic. But definitely a cool bass player. Go and check him out. This is the signature Strat that one of the signature Strats that Robert's got. This is from '88, so you know, fresh, young.
Rosewood board, excellent.
Yep, another one. Simon there with the same guitar that he's got. That's it's not pewter grey. It's called something grey. I'll tell you. I think I've got a pick here. I think I've got a pick somewhere. I'll tell you all some information on it. But yeah, so he's got a custom shop. So he's got one of the high end Strats at Fender. There he is, Hugh. You've seen him 16 times. There he is
I
there.
have indeed.
Does he, Hugh? Does he have this? Does he have the lineup of the band that's this basically? Guitar, bass, drums, keyboards. Is that what he has?
Not at the minute, I don't think. No.
Is it just a trio? Is it?
Well, Richard Cousins actually left for a few years in the 90s as well.
Yeah.
But he came back later on.
Right.
I think he's on the 2012 album that they did too, which is one of the reasons why it's so good. I don't. Yeah. Oh, we've got to be careful what we say because we could get wrong. Could be giving wrong
sure.
information. There's a pic there of Robert with his Strat and a Fender amp. Not the amps that he was playing. He's playing matchless amps, but during this time, he's playing Fenders, and I'll show you a couple of them. There he is there. This is a still from the first track off the album, Hugh and Simon.
Uh-huh.
Great video, just of him and the band playing.
Yeah.
There he is there, same era with the bass player. This is on the Tonight Show where they played live. Go and check that out. There's a lot of good clips of him playing live, and yeah, bit of a legend.
Yeah, great live.
So there's the Super Reverbs that he's playing at the time. 4x10s. And there's the back of them, Simon and Hugh and folks in the chat. Loud amp. And if you want, there's a bit of technical information there. 40 watt, 4x10s.
Nice.
And he was playing two of them around this time. That was his, and straight into the amp, as Hugh said in the intro. No effects, just the volume. That was it, and pretty much what he's doing today.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've got a couple of pics here, folks. Of I don't want to be controversial when I put these pics up, but there was a strong relationship between these two guys in the 80s and the 90s and right through. Robert Cray's played at a lot of Crossroads gigs, and the Crossroad DVDs that are out, we recommend that you go and buy them and watch them. Here's another still of them playing. That's when Eric Clapton tried to, he did an audition, Simon and Hugh, for the Joker.
Uh-huh.
Yes, stole Jack Nicholson's uniform. Yes, suit. Yes.
Yeah, but didn't quite get the gig. And
Couldn't out Jack, could he? Try saying that after out Jack. No.
And this is the last pic of them together. The day after this pic was taken, Stevie Ray Vaughan passed away in the helicopter accident, and there's from that period, four of the greatest Strat players at that time were hugely influential and dominating the airwaves. Jimmy Vaughan, Stevie, Eric, and Robert. Rest in peace.
Talking of that, Dr. Wharton, I can tell you that on March the 20th, Jimmy Vaughan was 73.
Wow. Shout out to Jimmy Vaughan.
So happy birthday to Jimmy Vaughan.
And the last pick, and I hope that these guys mend their disagreement. That global thing is hardly a reason for people who have shared a musical journey together for 20, 30 years to fall out on. That's just my little spiel. I hope that they love to see Robert back at Crossroads.
Mm-hmm.
That's it, folks.
Cool, mate. That was cool.
Fantastic.
Very cool.
Very cool picture. I've got my slab board Strat out in honour of.
You can't see mine. It's on the other wall.
Got my yes. The only thing I've got is 2 strats. I've got a maple strat and a rosewood one.
Nice. Oh, you need
Clearly, Mr.
both.
Cray.
So the color, the color guys of the Strat,
The gunmetal.
the Strong Persuader Strat is I don't know. It's not telling me. If someone can go, I don't know if it is gunmetal. Is it?
No.
I don't know.
I don't think so. That darker one. I don't know what that was.
I owned the sage green kind of colour one a few years ago.
Oh,
And I feel really sorry for letting it go. But
oh,
I'm a huge trem player. I can't really play a hard
Hardtail. You're not a hardtail man.
hardtail. Couldn't get the word out. No, I'm a tremolo junkie.
Where's mine's? I mean, it's but it's tied down. I have a.
Right.
I have. I don't.
same here. Same here. I don't use a trem.
I've kind of Hank Marvin style. I've almost got my pinky on the bar at all times. So I'm playing, even if I'm never going to use it.
Fantastic.
Crappy Luxury's in the chat. Morning, Crappy. Hope you're good. He says he thinks it's violet.
I'm gonna Google it. So if Hugh wants to kick on with the next track, I'll get that colour.
Okay then. Track 6 is the first track on side 2. It's called "Acting This Way." This is more on the soulful side of Robert again. It's got a poppy edge, I suppose, like Night Patrol has. Beautiful chordal work in this. Actually, a lot better quality than you would think, I would say. Because I used to study his playing up close. He was playing live, and some of the chordal work, he's moving chords without even, it looks as if he's not moving his hands, but he's doing all this intricate work. So he's one of them players that he's sneakily brilliant. Right, so there's that in this song. Got a great guitar playing. It's got a great, although very 80s sounding alto saxophone solo by David Sanborn.
Yeah.
And whether you think it's too poppy or not, I don't really care if anybody thinks. I think it's a fantastic song, and it's a 9.5 out of 10 for me.
Wow.
Yeah. Hang on. Some bloke in the chat called the 5150 says it's Inca Silver. There we are.
Yeah.
So it is.
Yeah. Lovely Strat.
Yeah. Cool.
With gold hardware.
Yeah. Ooh. So this, as you say, Hugh, the main thing about this is the David Sanborn sax solo, isn't it? Which does sound like, it could come off an 80s TV theme, doesn't it? He has got a sound, doesn't he? That instantly recognizable sound of a particular, I don't know what it is, but the way he plays the sax is it's instantly him.
Yeah.
On there we are, beautiful. But, again, the other interesting thing is that it seems to me that the guitar and the keys are very integrated together. They're very kind of, they clearly worked on doing that integration. So it's not one of those, when they're playing together, that's how they lock in very much kind of sound wise into kind of one. So they make one thing between them. I think it's quite interesting. Interesting production technique. Great soul singing, and I agree with you. It's more of a soul song than a sort of blues rock thing, isn't it? Kind of thing. And with that kind of thing, nice kind of arpeggios under the chorus melody, that change in the chords thing. I don't know if you remember. Sorry, I'm going to digress a bit. That thing about not making it all look effortless, and you're hardly moving your fingers at all. And I remember I went to see. I've told this story a lot. I went to see Leonard Skinner the first time they ever came to the UK, and they supported Golden Earring. And one of the things that stood out for me is Gary Rossington. That's what he did. He didn't look like he was moving his fingers at all.
Mm.
You know, he'd be doing this, and he just, there'd be this slight movement. He'd be playing another chord. It's like, how do you do that? How do you make it like you're not moving your fingers at all? But clearly you are moving your fingers, and you're playing different chords. How does that? I was amazed by that, and I can remember being amazed by it. Clearly, stuck in my head. So,
Yeah,
it's kind of,
it's astonishing technique. That's basically what it
isn't
is.
it? That kind of really smooth kind of finger movement, so you don't look as though you're doing anything. You're moving. It's just amazing. Yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So he's doing it on this. Hats off to him. But yes, I mean, there's no guitar solo on this. It's really a sax solo. There's two bits of the sax solo. The sax solo as a coda at the end. The guitar plays the riff and then integrates into things. So I give this 8.5 out of 10. I think it's a really good opener for side two. Although it doesn't seem to me, Hugh, I don't know. Clearly, this came out on vinyl because you've got it on vinyl.
Uh-huh.
It feels to me though it's as much programmed for CD as it is for vinyl. I don't know if you agree with that. I kind of, it runs as a complete thing.
Yeah. I always find that comparing CDs to vinyl always sounds more in the room to you.
Yeah.
Whereas your CD almost sounds like it's surrounding you a bit.
For sure. Yeah.
That it has got that kind of CD sound in a lot of areas. Probably just again because of the year or whatever it was, or the studios it was recorded at or whatever. Do you remember actually talking about the saxophone solo on Channel 4 over here? If you remember, there was a Robert Cray concert that same year. They showed on Channel 4.
Right.
I videotaped it, right?
Right.
And David Sanborn wasn't there. I'm trying to remember a world-class jazz saxophone blues player. Oh, what was his name? Was in the band during the concert, and he played that solo to perfection. Anyway, I digress.
He sort of copied it, did he?
Yes, to perfection. Yeah. Okay, Andrew.
Yeah. Look, I'm not going to add much to what you guys have said. I like the way that the horns and the strap were working together, the collaboration together, as you guys have said. And I love the sax. You've been watching a lot of these shows with us, Hugh, and I love the sax. I think the sax is one of the greatest instruments that can fit into a rock and roll band and into a blues band. Very rarely do you have bad sax solos, Simon. I can't think of a bad sax solo. Off the top of my head, and yeah. So I love it when I hear it in a song. I think, okay, right, I suppose subconsciously, guys, I might be using Mr. Keys as the reference for a lot of modern sax players. But no, I enjoy the track. It's not my favourite track. I'm not saying that it's a weak track. I've given it an 8 out of 10. For me, it's just a good album filler, Hugh. Never a skip, though.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I'm still trying to think of the saxophone player. It was Ernie somebody.
Ernie?
Oh, okay, just me. So annoying. Anyway. Yeah, that's actually one of the things I miss about the 80s the most, Andrew, is saxophone solos. I love all that. And give me some Huey Lewis and stuff like that. I'll listen to that all day with loads of Memphis horns.
Can I tell you something? I don't know what the post was. Someone said, name one of your favourite sax solos from the 80s, and I put down Sade's Your Love Is King.
Beautiful.
And man, you want to see the comments that people said. People, wow, yeah, I forgot that. I forgot, I forgot. But you go and check that out if you remember the video. The guy that's playing it looks like he's 18 years old.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
yeah, it's gone out of fashion, hasn't it? The sax at the moment.
Totally. Yeah.
I can't think of
miss
any
it big
kind of
time.
modern songs that have the sax on them.
They used to actually just make you feel good as well a lot of the time in songs. Sax always was Benny Hill theme,
It's a great. It's a great.
John ZD351.
Hey, Benny Hill.
Brilliant. Okay then, folks. On to track 7, and it's Gotta Change the Rules. Again, the Memphis horns are pretty prominent on this one. A real Memphis soul sound to it, I would say, or Philly soul, or one of the souls. It's very soulful anyway. His guitar on this, the tone on this, again, is beautiful. Singing is beautiful. It's got that, again, like the Otis Redding and his band kind of feel about it. Just a great soul song, and it's very much a soul song.
Yep.
It's a 9 out of 10. It's just one of the uplifting, great sounding songs on the album.
Yes, it's a kind of it's a sort of a mid-tempo thing. It's quite, as you say, bit more straightforward. This nice horns coming with that punctuation, that color, that dynamics that the horns give you. That I really like that when they kind of fill out a sound, don't they? As that kind of coloration effect. He's singing pretty straight with the instrumentation, and it's very that much. This time is a more percussive guitar sound, isn't it? That kind of that clean percussive strat sound that is an absolute classic sound you can get out of this. The solo is great with the horns, with the guitar playing off the horns. That's really good. And I made a note of this. It's a very hi-fi bass sound. Felt to me like hi-fi bass sound, not kind of that sort of low growly thing that probably I'm more used to as from earlier things. It's very kind of tight and clean, and as I say, I could do probably with a bit more bottom end on this album. I didn't feel the kick drum really came through on the as a whole. I don't know whether I missed it, but that would be my feedback. 8.5 out of 10 from me, but never a skip. Good track. Andrew.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I too, Simon, have written down here. I love that Strat rhythm playing technique that he's got going on this. It's it's a wonderful technique, isn't it? And a credit to RC and his ability. And again, I love the horns, and I mentioned this in my intro, Hugh. I just love the way that they've produced the horns on this album. It's just sits there nicely, Simon. It's not brash, brassy, or abrasive, or it's not weak and wimpy like some. I can't remember some of the albums that we've ranked, but there's been a couple that we've, there's not enough push behind the horns, and it's a credit to the production on this. I've given this 7.5 out of 10. I agree. Again, I've made a note here. It's a shame about the rhythm section not being not being present enough for me. I reckon if it was there, Simon, I probably would give it a 9 out of 10. I probably would, but I gotta agree with you guys, so I'm backing you guys up. 7.5 out of 10 for me, but it's not never a skip. I'll tell you why at the end.
Keeping his powder dry. Nice. Oh dear.
Yeah, I was going to say for that track as well. Nah, I'll just actually, I'll go into the next track. I'll end up just rambling too much. Okay, track 8.
That never happens on this show.
Yeah, called Across the Line. And going back to what we were speaking about earlier, Simon, you were mentioning about how the album kind of sounds as if none of it or nobody was playing in the same room at the same time. I think this song, it sounds like almost they're all playing in a kind of blues club.
Yeah.
And the way
Funny you
they've
should
used
say that. Yeah.
the way they've used the reverb, I think is one of the things that's making it sound like that. But I love it. It's got a cool, smoky, jazzy
Yep.
feel to it all the way through. The band sounds big as well. It sounds as if there's more instruments here than on other tracks. The piano work's fantastic. Sax work is great. I think Robert's tone has a lot of bite in this song as well. Absolutely fantastic song. One of my favourites on the album. This is a 10 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, it's funny, Hugh, you say that. I wrote that as well. I mean, I put down swinging beat. It's kind of got a bit more swing to it this time, and you're right, and that's you know, it's quite possible that they actually were in a room for this a bit more, and that basic track, and therefore it swings a bit more. But you're right, I did feel that as well. Though it swung a bit more than the other tracks.
And I'll tell you why, because I agree with you guys too.
Wait your turn. It's a great walking bass line. I think that's one of those things is the walking bass line on this. Great barroom piano as well. Piano is always a welcome change from the synths in my books. Again, that kind of percussive guitar, and the guitar that plays a lot of like little riffs and lines and not much chord work, isn't there? There's a lot of riffs and lines, and again, great soulful singing. I think it goes without saying what a great singer. And I think he, one of the major pluses on this album is his singing. I think he sings really well. Again, I'd say, and I wrote it down, so I'll reiterate: not much bass on the record or kick drum, and I think that's, it's kind of the bass is very clean and very hi-fi. And I say I would like possibly a bit more bottom end on it for my liking. But the guitar solo is a great guitar solo, clean, precise. And as you say, when you're playing that clean, you've got to be precise, haven't you? You've got to be on the money, otherwise it's going to go wrong. It's a nice call and response work in it as well, and and another beautiful guitar solo at the end. I gave this a 9 out of 10, but never a skip. Great track. Andrew, who's going to tell us all?
Hey, Rambling, good to see you, bro. I think I might know who Rambling is. Good to see you.
Good morning, Rambling. Yes, new name.
He comments regularly on some of our videos, so
cool.
Yeah, I think that might be. I think that might be Carl. Could be one of his many
aliases. Google aliases.
Look, I agree with you guys too. I thought there was something a bit fishy going on with this track. The way that the piano and the bass are playing, you couldn't get that. You couldn't get that recorded individually and put onto tape or onto analog, whatever they were doing back then. I certainly think at least those instruments were playing together. And the bass on this track is remarkable because you can clearly hear it a little bit. So love that. It was definitely a feature of this track. I'm not going to add to what you guys have said because you guys have eloquently said it well. I've given this a 9.5 out of 10. I think it's definitely a deep cut and one that Robert Cray fans, if they're not familiar with, definitely need to check out.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. Okay, on to the penultimate track on the album. This one we've got a ballad called "At Last." Absolutely beautiful ballad. On Robert's guitar on this song, he's got the most beautiful effect if used properly, which is the tremolo effect. It's got that lovely kind of. You could hear it in a movie soundtrack, and it would just work every time. But beautiful, soulful singing from Robert again. The band, and Memphis horns are fantastic, and it's just an absolutely beautiful ballad. Again, when he plays it live, it's a standout always as well. You can hear a pin drop when he's playing this. This is a 10 out of 10 for me as well. That old second last thing has either not or it has come to fruition. I'm not sure, but
it's been debunked.
I love this track.
Debunked.
Beautiful ballad. Simon.
Yeah. Well, the interesting. I don't know when because we listen to a lot of blues albums on here. I'm always waiting for the one in 3/4 time or 6/8. This is the one
Right.
at last, second last track. At last, we've got one in waltz
Right.
time as a thing. And I do kind of, well, because one of the techniques is that you always notice is somewhere on an album there will be a track in 3, 4, 6, 8 time, whatever. And this is the one. It's you're right. It reminds me of things like Stand By Me, and it's got that similar kind of chord structure to Stand By Me, proper soul songs or soul ballad, as that harking back to the kind of 50s and 60s. That's what it kind of reminds me of. It's not quite the same, but it has that kind of feel. I agree with you. I think the horns play against the singing, and that's fantastic. And some really nice arpeggio work to give it that, that kind of that's a Stand By Me feel kind of thing. That's really great. There's a bit more bass on the track, I noticed as well. somebody put it up a bit. And a really nice melodic solo with a slightly different feel to it than previous. It's a really cool solo that really complements the song. I give it a 9 out of 10. Never a skip. Great penultimate track. Unlike the theory. Andrew.
Indeed.
Yeah, really interested that they would have the second track as a ballad. Second to last track. I thought maybe on reflection, the second or third time when I listened through this, Hugh, that maybe they could have put this a little bit more central in the album, and that wouldn't have worried me, because you don't normally get to kind of a ballady kind of track as the second track. And Robert is a great balladeer, and we know that because of a lot of his radio songs. It's because of me, for example, is a kind of ballady kind of, so he's got that voice for it, and he pulls it off well. Has the credentials to do it. Lovely song. Alan's made this wonderful comment. A relaxing track. I have to agree with her there. At 1:29, it's a cool solo, and the rock professor said, you got some great strat work. It's called stratting. When you're playing the strat, it's called stratting, and it comes across really, really well.
Well,
He's stratting well.
I-N.
Yeah, stratting. Look, I reckon, Hugh, back in the day, I may have skipped this. I reckon back in the day, I possibly would have skipped this. But there's no skips on this album. I love the track. I've given it 9 out of 10 too. Never a skip.
Nice one. Okay, fellas, we're on now to the final track on the album, and it's called Laugh Out Loud. What could I say about this? The old theory about the second to last track would have came true if it was me that was doing the sequencing on this album, because I would have had at last, and I would have had this as the second last. Just because it's a little lackluster. It's a nice blues track, little lackluster. I don't know why. It's similar to the one earlier on. That it's the only other track than that one that I've never really loved on the album. I like it, I don't love it. So I'll probably only give this like an 8 out of 10.
Interesting.
Okay. Good morning to Digital Guitars UK. Morning, Digital. Good to see you. Hope you're good.
Good to see you, Andrew.
Andrew, all right, another Andrew.
Another Andrew. Oh yeah, I don't know what you mean here. Got that kind
None of us are
piano.
Prince Andrew. None of us are Prince Andrew. I can tell you that. That
Fingerprint.
naughty boy.
Hey, let's not go there.
Okay, right.
Yes. So anyway, yeah, a slow piano-led intro, doesn't it? With the bass and drums, kind of piano comes in. Some nice soulful singing. I think for me the thing is that it's perfectly fine as a song, works fine, and yet there isn't a huge amount to say about it, is there? I noticed that. Listen to it. I didn't make a lot of notes about it as an interesting thing. So, sometimes I make quite a lot of notes about songs and a lot of things. Not a huge amount occurred to me. It's got a really nice, clean, melodic, bluesy solo. I like the horns. They're they're used in the way they've been used on this album all the way through. And on this one, he sings and plays the guitar together. I think it's very much that singing and playing together thing that's quite difficult to do. But yeah, I too gave it an 8 out of 10. But I didn't, as I say, I didn't feel as it was a hugely standout thing and had a hugely standout something that made it stand out, which is why I think possibly it's track 10. Hugh, the older second last track may have been usurped for the last track kind of thing.
It may have stood out more on what's lesser albums,
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe.
It's difficult to know, but I give it 8 out of 10. But I wouldn't skip it. It's fine.
No, never.
I think yes, it's always interesting ending on a ballad as well. It kind of slower track. Anyway, Dr. Walton, what say you?
Look, the only thing that I love about this track, and I'm echoing you guys as well, is the powerful vocals by Robert. That's the only thing. And like the Rock Professor, I haven't got any other notes other than powerful vocals. So I am climbing your tree, Simon. I'm in your tree. I'm shaking your branches. I'm with you. We're in that tree house.
Lovely dovey all the time.
Yeah. You got it. I think it's powerful from that point of view, and I think deliberate on behalf of RC. I think it's something that he wanted to do deliberately, because he could have done so much more to it. But if you go and listen to the vocals, get back to me. Let me know if I'm on the right track here. But I think it's definitely something that he wanted to do as an individual, as a vocalist. And having said that, though, Hugh and Simon, after listening to this track, it's really, really amazing for me to think that this was recorded in 1988. Because it doesn't sound... when you listen to these 10 songs, it's not a 1988 album. Love it. I'm after listening to this, I'm going back to Spotify, Hugh, and I've been listening to about 7 Robert Cray albums. Certainly whetted my appetite for Robert Cray. And I know that you have been talking about Robert Cray in our chat for a long, long time, Hugh. I know you have been. You've been talking about him as a guitar player for a long, long time, and I'm kind of pinching myself actually because I haven't been recognising him, Simon, as one of the giants, as a single coil giant. You know, he's up there.
For sure.
And one of the great things that we like doing here on our channel is bringing our own attention to artists and albums, and maybe if we're lucky, we can draw other people's attention. And we hope if people have forgotten Robert or have not discovered him, I'm going to be the first guy to stick my hand up and say, go and check him out because he's a master.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely, and he's incredibly well regarded, isn't he? Robert Cray in the blues world, he's definitely right up there, and I one of the more modern players as well. He's sort of clearly he's sort of 10 years younger than Clapton, and kind of thing, and I think I always think of him as being from the 80s onwards rather than not. I don't think of him as being a 70s artist much, and
No.
certainly not. So I feel like he's in like the next wave, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Up with Stevie Ray Vaughan. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of his tone and playing is, as you say, is steeped way back.
Yeah, but he's got that soul thing to it as well, hasn't he? That
Totally.
definitely is
Totally.
definitely a thing, particularly but yeah, good. I always like going into albums that I don't really know and stuff. So it's been I know Robert Crowd, so I've got one of his albums, but it's nice to go through ones. I'm bitten. I think that it has kind of 80s elements that make me think, oh, that's an 80s album straight away, and the production and the kind of the keyboard sounds
The
particularly,
keys, right?
Are up. They kind of make it more dated, much more dated than say a Hammond organ sound, doesn't it,
But
or piano?
yeah, I agree, but at the same time, I still think when people say dated, like Rumble by Link Ray sounds dated, but it sounds brilliant.
Well, you're right, Hugh. Go and compare this, say, to August, which came out in '87, or Behind the Sun, which came out 86, 87 as well, 88. And the production on this is way, way, way different from those albums.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There was
Who produced this album?
It's produced by Bruce Bromberg and Dennis Walker.
Ah. Yeah, wonderful job.
Yeah. Yes, it's not
They did a lot of
not
the
a
right
criticism. I didn't mean it to be a criticism.
No.
That it was
No.
But as I say, that then was then, wasn't it? You use the tools and you use the sounds and you use the things
Sure.
that are available to you then because you want to sound contemporary and you want to sound up to date. And so it's just, as I say, in retrospect. I mean, not that there's anything bad about it. In retrospect, you can tell when an album's recorded by those sorts of sounds, can't you? And particularly the 80s have that thing attached to them.
Yeah, I think I know where you were coming from as well, Andrew, and the fact that when you say it doesn't sound like so much like an 80s album, as in a lot of that later 80s stuff and mid to late 80s stuff, a lot of it sounded really tinny.
Yeah, you got it.
Really, really tinny. This has more warmth and depth to it, in my opinion. So
yeah. It definitely is, but it's definitely hi-fi, isn't it? It's definitely hi-fi.
Certainly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
As you say, made for CD sound about
it
all the way around. Yeah, agree.
Yeah. And I too, when I was making an album, I too would have made an album that sounded like that. I was sort of, because that was the now sound, the new wave, wasn't it? It was the thing, what you want to do, and and it's, Bruce Bromberg and did a fantastic job of making that album sound, as pristine and as perfect as possible, but all, and all So when you put on your hi-fi, all the instruments have that separation. They all have their own slots, and it sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So
Un,
as I say, because I'm older, and I'm used to like you listening to stuff on vinyl. I like things to be a little bit muddier and a little bit more, together. But that's just as I say, if I'd been recording then, I'd have been doing the same thing too. So
exactly. I mean,
good morning, Derek.
regarding sound, there's I've had almost not quite an argument, but a heated debate with a couple of mates of mine who were saying how anything the Beatles and the Stones recorded in the 60s, they're trying to compare it to stuff recorded in the late 70s and saying that the Beatles and Stones stuff sounded crap. But that's the whole thing about it, is they sound of their era. And that's what makes it sound great, because it sounds of its era. If you got them songs and you used a studio from 1979 on it, it wouldn't sound anywhere near the same. There's no better, there's no worse. Fabulous Thunderbirds, there you go.
Well, this album was, Hugh, because you just said it. This album was recorded in May 1979. Now, this album sounds completely different to Robert Cray.
Sounds
much
completely
more that
50s.
Organic, integrated, as you say, 50s. Playing in a room, kind of all together. It sounds completely different. Completely. 10 years, not 8 or 9 years.
Absolutely.
Makes a lot of difference. Yeah. No, completely.
Awesome. Good to see you, Derek. Thanks for joining us, and thank you for the kind comments that you did yesterday on the show that we did on the 100 greatest blues guitarists. I urge you, please, if you haven't already, go there, check that video out, and put in the comments your top 10 blues guitarists, please, and let's get a bit of a conversation going over there, because it's going to be something that we're going to be talking about for a while, I'm sure. We love lists. You agree with them, you disagree with them, Hugh, and you can make your own list, and it's something to talk about, isn't it, Simon? So
that's
what we do.
That's what we do here.
Hugh, thank you, brother, for jumping on with us.
Hugh.
Thank you for picking this album.
Excellent.
And we do look forward to having you come back and join us for some more albums. It's a pleasure, and we'll keep in touch. If you want to be a guest host with the Rock Professor and I and Brad, you're more than welcome to jump on. Just get in touch with us. If anybody here in the chat wants to jump on and pick an album and have a chat with us for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, you're more than welcome. Rock Professor's got the pick for next week, so hit the notification button when I do the show card and put that up on the channel. It'll be Easter Sunday here, so make sure you've got your eggs out and your hot cross buns.
That's Friday.
Oh no! Well, in my family, we eat them for the whole weekend, except for Friday.
That's clearly disgraceful. You should to be spoken to severely for transgressing the written law.
Yeah. Have a light meal on Friday. It's Good Friday, brother. Bit of mortification is good for the body, good for the soul. I think we're out of here. We're going to give Hugh the last word.
Yeah.
Great to see you, Simon. Thank you for coming back from your visit to Switzerland.
Yes, refreshed and renewed. And thanks, Hugh, for coming on and choosing a great album.
Thank you.
It's been really great. Yeah, hope you've enjoyed it. It's been fantastic to have you on again. So anybody else, please, we'd love to have more people on to do this stuff. It's great, and I promise we'll be nice.
No, all the best to Mr. Brad.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I'll just say goodbye. Digital Guitars UK, Gret Zeppelin, John ZD351. You just bought a 7-inch single for the first time in 100 years.
Wow.
John. Ellen as well. Fantastic to see you. Great. Crappy Luxury as well. Rambling. Thank you very much, guys, for joining, and great comments as always. Derek Claxton as well. Good to see you, Derek. Thanks so much for that. I think I've got everybody. So have a fantastic week, and we'll see you on Easter Sunday. Eggs to the floor.
Awesome. And for you people that have
Looking
missed
forward
Brad,
to it.
Brad's going to play us out.
Play us out, Brad.
That doorman.
Back to Yes.
Not bad.
Get in.
Not bad, eh? He's not bad, eh?
Pretty damn fine. Better than I could ever do.